Dr. Mo, appreciate your time and hearing at least the atmosphere there at the Menchia Palace, and then also the level of optimism that these persons who are outside of the Menchia Palace are also there giving the people who are in there the support. What are your expectations of today and beyond?
Yes, Alfred, good evening. I think this is most welcoming news. Probably for those in peace building, the most refreshing news for this month. The month is ending tomorrow. And I've been hearing from your reporter the optimism that both sides are showing are good signals for the mediation process to start at a good note. I think their voices that we've heard, I expect that they are a reflection of the site, and that is very positive for any mediation process. I want to use the occasion to commend Otumfuo, commend government, commend all those who have played a key role in bringing this process to this point. I think very significant. I just want to encourage that they approach this process with the expectation that it will work. They should approach the process with trust, in the whole system, because without it, that would be very difficult. Because you don't gain. Nobody has gained, Alfred. I'm not sure either side can claim some gains out of this protracted conflict. There have been losses instead. So it's an opportunity that has been presented to not only the people of Bawku, but all of us as Ghanaians to once and for all find closure to this intractable conflict. I think it's very positive, and we thank you. The media must also help in the process. Every communication regarding this must be done with utmost interest of the country at heart. If we're able to do this, my brother, if we get Bawku right, we'll get a lot of things right for our country, Ghana.
See, and in getting it right, what in your view should the approach be? Because this is not the first time we're going on this path of trying to get both sides to sit and talk. What should be done differently this time around?
Yes, I expect that whatever that is said and done shall be recorded, and recorded well. I expect that there should be a communique, probably after every session. A short one, not the details of the communication, but to give signals as to how the progress is going on. I expect that this should be a closed-door meeting. It shouldn't be open to all of us. From the beginning, we should be able to contain any external factors. That would be very helpful. And I expect that probably we begin with mediation, but along the line, we can escalate it to arbitration if the mediation doesn't give us the expected results, outcomes we're all looking for. And I expect that we all continue to pray. Ghana is a country of prayer. Christians, Muslims, whatever. Let us back the process with prayer for Otumfuo and his team, for the site. And I expect that the youth would avoid any statement at this point. Please don't go out and make any statement. I expect that we would avoid going on media platforms, either the social media or the print media, to make commentaries on a sensitive process like what is happening. And when we're able to contain ourselves, my brother Alfred, we will get it right.
And containing ourselves is where I bring in Richard Commodore. Is a foreign security consultant. Indeed, also has been looking at this quite closely over the years and how things have played out. And Mr. Commodore, what measures should be put in place in getting persons in this conflict to restrain themselves while this mediation talks takes place?
Definitely, first thing, the security agencies will have to be on a high alert so that any element of surprise can be curtailed. To the extent that we do not know the total number of persons the Mensia mediation team has invited from Bawku from both sides, they might send representations, or they themselves, the key figures, might want to make this distance for themselves. And it is time for some military groups or armed groups to take advantage of the vacuum. And I expect the military officers and the security officers in general to be on the lookout so that we could curtail any insurgencies or any element of surprise. If they are able to do that, that will help the process. And that will also build confidence for people to make the journey as many times as possible.
And then also, in what form should this mediation take, especially because this is not the first time we're going on this path in resolving or trying to resolve this Bawku conflict?
It has been confirmed, or it has come to stay, that the Mensia Ashanti-led mediation is a viable option, and that is why everybody cried for it. We will only hold our figures up and pray that the tone and the early processes will give the mediators and all parties involved some level of hope, knowing that between yesterday and the 1st of May, whatever might have happened will give them a clear cut or a way out as to what the subsequent processes will be. In mediation, objectivity, frankness, honesty, and boldness is what sets the tone. And I have no doubt that Ashanti who has led this mediation in some other capacities for a very long time, they will put up a team that meets the challenge. And that is the prayer we have to pray, that the initial stages will be comprehended by almost everybody involved in this particular matter.
Commodore, appreciate your time on this, and I thank you very much. And also, just stay with me a bit. And we lost Richard Commodore on the telephone, and I appreciate you for joining us as well on this matter. Also, thank you as well, Dr. George Amo, Executive Secretary of the National Peace Council. Thank you for your thoughts on this. It's live here on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7, also on Kesmi 107.1 in Tamale and beyond. We're live on W93.5 in Wa and beyond. Your thoughts, views, comments, and opinions are welcome at 3FM 927. Read out to you and to the rest of the world. And we've just gotten a statement from the Ghana Bar Association, also calling on the President of the Republic of Ghana, John Dramani Mahama, to immediately release the full decision establishing a prima facie case against the Chief Justice, a leadership Gertrude Isaba Tokono, consistent with established precedent. According to the GBA, this disclosure is necessary to ensure that the process is conducted in accordance with the principles of transparency and fairness. This was contained in a resolution released by the Ghana Bar Association at its recent bar conference in Accra over the weekend. Dennis Pabero is joining me in the studio for a quick detail of this particular statement from the GBA with a number of sub-themes in there, but specific to this conversation is the sub-theme on the suspension of the Chief Justice. What is the GBA saying?
Well, Alfred, it's what has always already been in the media space, except that GBA has come to confirm this. I say so because over the weekend there were reports that the GBA had passed a resolution seeking the president to revoke the suspension of the Chief Justice. That was on Saturday after they had their mid-year conference at the Labadi Hotel. But the GBA itself, we didn't see a statement from them, except the one that they issued on the 24th of April. So 2 days apart, from 24th, then the 26th, there was the passage of the resolution. Now, what is different in this resolution is the fact that, if you recall, the first statement that the GBA issued was the fact that they wanted the process to follow the process to follow what the laid down rules are, and specifically they wanted Article 296 to be followed thoroughly. They didn't give details about that. Now, what we are seeing in this resolution is the fact that the GBA, in asking for the revocation of the suspension of the Chief Justice, is raising issues with Article 296 to say that they are asking the president to do so because the suspension was without the publication of guidelines as enshrined in Article 296, which requires that if a person is going to exercise discretion and that person is a judicial officer, and in this case the president, they contend is not a judicial officer, there has to be some publication of guidelines as to how that discretion was exercised. So to that extent, they want the president to revoke immediately the suspension of the GBA. And for purposes of clarity,
the Chief Justice in this instance.
Come again?
The suspension of the Chief Justice.
Suspension of the Chief Justice. Yeah. So specifically, what you are saying is that the Ghana Bar Association calls for the immediate revocation of the suspension of the Chief Justice, as it considers the suspension to be unconstitutional, considering the fact that the president, who is not a judge or a judicial officer, exercises discretion to suspend the Chief Justice under Article 14610 of the 1992 Constitution in the absence of a published constitutional instrument, statutory instrument, or regulations governing the exercise of his said discretion required by Article 296. The GBA does not end there. It goes on to talk about enactment of regulations, to say that the Ghana Bar Association hereby also calls for the immediate enactment of clear and comprehensive guidelines relating to matters under Article 146 of the 1992 Constitution of the Republic of Ghana to ensure transparency, accountability, fairness in all proceedings involving Superior Court judges, particularly in the context of the impeachment or removal of such officers. Also, you recall that this matter is in court, largely because there are disagreements as to how this procedure should have been executed. While some believe that upon the president's receipt of the petitions, the Chief Justice needs first of all to be notified, her responses taken before the consultation with the Council of State. Others are of the view that it does not matter if the consultation begins and midway the Chief Justice is notified of the petition and then her responses are taken. It's the reason that the oath of MP is in court and that matter is still pending. But the Ghana Bar Association is of the view that it's about time there are regulations are enacted so that we have a clear procedure as to how this is supposed to progress. Mind you, even when the Chief Justice asked for the petition and the number of days, she was asking for 7 days. The president gave her 10 days. What essentially means is that with that procedure, it's unclear how many days one is allowed to use to respond to all those things. So the GBA, even though they've not said that, but knowing what has happened and what's ongoing, you can infer that these are some of the things that they perhaps are looking out for. They are also making a demand for the release of the decision on prima facie case. They say, in addition, the Ghana Bar Association calls upon the President of the Republic of Ghana to immediately release the full decision establishing a prima facie case against the Chief Justice, consistent with established precedent, except they didn't mention the President. This disclosure is necessary to ensure that the process is conducted in accordance with the principles of transparency and fairness. To put this in context, upon consultation with the Council of States, the President and the Council of States, they reach a conclusion that yes, a prima facie case has been established against the Chief Justice, based on which the President exercised a discretion to suspend the Chief Justice. They are saying the reasoning that led to the establishment of such prima facie case should be made public, so that the public get to know how they arrived at that conclusion. They say this is consistent with established precedent. Yes, like I mentioned, they have not mentioned that precedent, but we do know in the case, the earlier petition that was put before the previous president by Professor Koku Asari in respect of the same Chief Justice, the presidency issued a statement to explain how they arrived at the decision not to proceed with the matter because there was no case made out of that. That's just one instance. There was also the other issue of ASEPA, which also petitioned for the removal of the former Chief Justice. That the presidency also issued a statement to explain how they arrived at the conclusion that there was no prima facie case established. So the Ghana Bar Association, in this particular regard, even without citing examples, knowing what has happened in the space, we can immediately point out to some of those matters. They also want a denunciation of prejudicial comments. Further, the GBA denounces any and all unsubstantiated political commentary, or statements that seek to undermine the authority, independence, and integrity of the judiciary. The association affirms its commitment to safeguarding the sanctity of the judicial process and resolves to take all appropriate legal measures to protect the judiciary from undue interferences and unjustifiable attacks. They now progress to talk about what they say are matters affecting the nation, where they make comments about galamsey and the destruction of the environment and calling for decisive measures to be taken. They also talk about the Bawku conflict, commending the urgent and genuine mediation efforts. They also call for support for the Asantehene in his attempt to engage the mediation process, and that comments that incite violence should be avoided altogether. They conclude their statements talking about the unresolved Ablekuma North parliamentary elections, and they say that the GBA notes with concern the lack of parliamentary representation for the people of Ablekuma North despite their active participation in the December 7th election. They call on the Electoral Commission, the 2024 Election Security Task Force, especially the Ghana Police Service and other relevant authorities, to take immediate and necessary steps to resolve the situation by completing the collation process and declaring the results of the parliamentary election so as to uphold the democratic rights of the people of Ablekuma North. So this is a statement, this communique dated in Accra on the 26th day of April 2025. 26th is Friday. Saturday.
Oh, Saturday.
Yeah.
Okay, so hold on a bit for me. Martin Pebu, private legal practitioner, and this has been following this case quite closely as well. And we also have the leader of the lawyers, president of the Lawyers in Search of Democracy, also joining us. That's Eric Delano Alifo joining us right now. Counsel, good evening. Thank you for joining us here on Hot Edition.
Good evening. Good evening to your listeners, also Mr. Ocansey and your colleagues. Good evening to all of you.
And I thank you so much for joining us. Hello, Martin Bebo. I want to find out from you what your thought is on this particular demand by the Bar Association that at least at the minimum, the prima facie case should be made public. The one against the Chief Justice, reason why there was a decision to even suspend her in the first place. And it's consistent with what Professor H. Kwesi Prempeh had also proposed, that at the least there should be the publication of the reasons behind the suspension of the Chief Justice. What's your thoughts on this?
Absolutely. The reason is that, we are democracy. And so transparency too is very key in a thriving democracy. You'll find a number of Supreme Court decisions that talk about transparency, probity, accountability, etc. It's even in Pebu number 2 versus Attorney General number 2. So the Supreme Court says these are the hallmark, of our democracy. So in other words, these are the pillars that hold our democracy together. So it would be odd to have a decision that remains a secret. And I don't think actually the president intends to do that. Because you remember when the Charlotte Osei matter came, at the end of the day, the decision was released. We read it publicly, the procurement breaches, etc. Right? So we knew exactly what caused Charlotte Osei's removal. So in the same vein, and remember, Charlotte Osei was also removed under Article 146. So it's the same thing. It's the same thing, like the same chief. Abide, let the ball, the children, right? Mm-hmm. Yes. So the same thing.
But anyway, so let's do this very quickly. And lawyer, let's get on to the other line as well. Lawyer Christian Hamam Hesse is also joining us as well. Appreciate your time. Thank you for joining us.
Yes, good evening to your listeners, and thanks for having me.
So, Lawyer Alifo, your thoughts on this particular demand by the Bar Association that this prima facie be made public for us all to know?
Yes, well, Yes, and I must say that it is not consistent with what Professor Kwasi Prempeh actually wrote. I read his message, and he said that at least at the end of the process, that's what he said. He said that it should be released, whatever proceedings or information about the reasons for why Chief Justice may be dismissed should be released for the knowledge of the general public. That's what he said. And when I listened to Mr. Kwebu, Senior Kwebu, he also alluded to the example in Charlotte Osoye's case, but he said that it was released at the end of the matter, at the end of the proceedings, and so we all knew why she was dismissed. At this stage, you know, I must say, right from onset, I have always been saying that the petition should have been released anyway, because I made several arguments and said that my understanding of the proceedings having to be held in camera only refers to the determination of prima facie and the sitting or the hearing of the investigative body or the committee that is inquiring into the matter. That is my understanding. So I thought that the petition should, but of course, and I listened to Senior Kwebu and others right from onset, and they kept saying that they should, once it does to be in camera, everything, and that is the argument I've been hearing everybody say. Everybody thought that, well, the best thing was that nothing was released, the petition was not released, it was only given to Chief Justice and responded. So when I'm hearing this now, and people saying that, well, the proceedings and the determination of prima facie, what went into that should be released at this stage before the case even proceeds, I don't think that is consistent with the position of all the people who are singing this song now. If it were me saying it, yes, then that would have been fine, because right from the onset, I said that the petition itself at least should have been released for us to know. But even that, some of the people who are now saying that even the prima facie determination should be made public, who even opposed me when I was saying that the petition should be released. They kept referring me to Ajay Chum case. So I don't understand. And the GBA, I don't know what they are doing. It's GBA, look, we have to tell them in their faces that they are just behaving like a tool in the hands of NPP. It's as clear as that. You know, we are not going to be shy.
You're not a member of the association. You're a member.
I am a member, but I have to speak the truth. And tomorrow we are having a press conference, and I'm going to speak. I'm going to use stronger words than I'm using now. I'm saying that because we know GBA, less than a week ago, they issued a statement. They've been issuing statements on our behalf all the time. Nobody says anything. And this time around, they issued a statement. And then just about a week later, they went to a mini conference. And then two former deputy attorney generals came to stampede the whole mini conference, push them to vote for a resolution. Look, and just about less than 50 lawyers out of about 8,000 lawyers in the country voted 43-4 and said that a resolution should be passed to condemn the president, to ask for the suspension to be reversed. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. So we have to speak the truth. We have to say it the way it is, because we are never saying, we are always scared, and that is why we are always in a mess, in a big mess. So we don't have to be scared anymore. We have to speak the truth. And the truth is that the same people who said that this has to be held in camera because you don't have to expose. Look, if the information that went into the determination of prima facie case was released, then what? Then they will pick it up in the middle of the proceedings and say that, well, we don't think that this qualifies for the Chief Justice to be suspended, and so he should not be suspended, all of that. So I don't get it. So I'm surprised that some lawyers are agreeing to this. And we know what happened at the mini conference. And I am saying that it was led by two former deputy attorney generals. They stampeded. In fact, when it started, there were even arguments with some of the executives of the GBA. They told them that, no, we had issued a statement already. We didn't see anything wrong that the president had done. But they even said that, well, if they will not pass a resolution to condemn the president, then they must commend him. They must commend him. So GBA has used the MPP elements within the GBA have used the GBA for far too long as a tool to harass NDC regimes.
Well,
and we have sat down and watched them. It is the truth.
So were you there?
Well, anybody can agree with it or not, but that's what I believe, and that's what many people believe. And that is it. And you can't force me for what I believe.
Counsel, yes. I am not forcing you to believe what you want to believe. I mean, that's your opinion. correct? I mean,
Yes,
you
yes,
hold
yes,
that
that's
view.
correct, yes.
But I was
Yes.
asking if you were at this conference on Saturday. Were you
No,
there?
I wasn't. But we have a full report of what went into the conference. We know what happened over there. I wasn't there, and I'm telling you that out of about 8,000 lawyers, only about 50 were there. And the matter that is as crucial as this, and so these 50 people will take a decision on behalf of all Ghanaian lawyers by voting, and then the result of the vote was 43-4, and then they want to say that this is what all Ghanaian lawyers, 8,000 lawyers in Ghana are saying. It is not true. That is not what we are saying. And some of us are going to come out tomorrow and say that we do not associate with this resolution. And so if they want to sack us from the GBA, they should sack us from the GBA. Because right now I'm saying that they don't want us to have a united front. And we are ready for that. Because the GBA is allowing itself to be used by the MPP too much.
Well, hold on a bit for me. Christian Mamhesi is also a colleague counsel of yours as well, a learned colleague of yours as well, an officer of the court, and a member of the Ghana Bar Association as well. Counsel, do you share in this same sentiment by Lawyer Alifo about your association, that you have just been reduced to a political tool against the NDC, essentially?
Thank you for having me, and regards to your listeners. You see, when we have political idiosyncrasies carried around, it is a recipe for disaster, and this should be guarded in a rule-based order. Even when we have our main bar conference, where we are to elect our executives, the statistics will tell you that we have an average of an active membership of 3,000 lawyers nationwide. And even with that, it is not everybody that represents at the Ghana Bar Conference to carry through with elections. And when leadership is elected, are you then to say that because a proportion of it was not at the bar conference, the election of the leadership is invalid, even though there was quorum? You see, when we grow into political coloration, it affects the level of intelligentsia. And when a state grows into that level of state, it becomes a problem. Even when objectiveness is the order of the day, it is muddied in a colored milieu, and that milieu becomes a disdain for society to follow. I beg to differ. Even if one holds a different position to the resolution that leadership had come up with at the mid-year review, it should not be carried out by my learned friends in the open and the Ghana Bar Association
when they are doing the wrong thing.
Counsel, hold on.
Sorry,
yes.
When I hear this,
hold on. Yes, hold on, because when he was
speaking, I was very civil.
Hold on.
When he was speaking, I was very civil. I never commented.
And make your point.
Yes,
make your point.
I mean,
yes.
rule of law encourages tolerance. So if tolerance cannot be part of rule of law, then I am sorry. Then I should go offline. Because rule of law and civility means that we should encourage tolerance in the body submission of critique. And I'm saying that if even the leadership by the mid-year review had a resolution passed and a certain minority of the association feels displeased with it, you are at liberty to render your displeasure as to the resolution passed. But when now you tout in the glare the very association that you belong, and you say publicly and openly that it is colored in political undertones.
So if
it has become the tool of another political. It has become the tool of another political. It has become the tool of another political. Then it becomes a problem, because at the end of the day, we are all members of the association, and we stand respectfully. We are speaking to the public, and we as members of the bar, we stand in good standing, and we are officers of the court. We should present ourselves as people,
and we are being dishonest. We are officers of the court, and we are being dishonest.
To take after. It should not be that we are shouting and we are no. That is not how we are brought up, and that is not the etiquette at the bar. You understand? So if you stand in displeasure with the resolution, you can render your position that even though this is the resolution, in my personal opinion, I disassociate. I don't find it. But to go on to render it as a political tool and to now run down the Ghana Bar Association as the arm of another political tool, I mean, is this the kind of country we want? Is it the rule or that
is the kind of country you are creating? That's the kind of country the GB is creating.
It becomes problematic. You see, it becomes problematic when we have members of the
lawyer, please hold on.
And with the greatest respect, like I said, I had all the tolerance to listen to him. When I never interjected.
Kindly make your point. Yes, yes.
So my point is that save that this is the resolution. Save that this is the resolution of the bar. Whether it is at the bar conference or it is a media review. Whether it is 50 lawyers or whatever, there was quorum. Resolution had been passed. The leadership has appended their signature to it. It represents the position of the bar. I, Christian Liberation Hesse, I can say that save that the bar has this position. In my private opinion, I differ from whatever is said, and I am allowed within the confines of law and in the confines of rule of law to opine and dissent by my way of personal opinion. It is allowed. But when I now, as a member, I go and attack the position of the bar, then the very bar that we belong to, we are running it in the mud. When this period is over, do we now associate with the highest pinnacle of the bar? No, this is not the bar. This is not the bar of the Francois. This is not the bar of Darota. This is not the bar of the learned Asantes. This is not the bar that we find. This should be the bar when the position is given. If you find a dissenting opinion which is different from it, state it as it is. Don't run the very bar that you belong to down. And tomorrow you associate yourself with the same bar for the same public to see you in the high light of it. This is not how we run in the high saddle. This is not it. Now, given the opinion or the resolution given by the bar.
Okay, well, you round up for me, please.
I have observed that it is trying to express an appeal to the president in the light of Article 296 of his discretion.
No, at what point exactly, and this is where I come in, what point exactly does this appeal by the GBA find any covering in the dictates of 296 that the president should make public the prima facie against the Chief Justice, reason why she's been suspended? Where exactly in 296?
You see, Article 296, as for the past week, I have submitted on your platform. Article 296 has a checkered procedure, and the learned retired jurist, in the sense of Justice Dateban in the Franz Chum case, opined in his leading judgment that Article 296 is Article 146 is fraught with procedural lapses. And that procedural lapses, he called upon the Constitutional Review Committee to come up with lasting procedures to deal with this particular proceeding.
Until then, the president cannot exercise discretion?
Now, in the current position as we have it, the president has not erred, and that has not been the position of anybody. In fact, no lawyer has said that the president. No lawyer has said that the president has erred. But the point is, given that there is no clear procedure, and given that there is a call on transparency devoid of political idiosyncrasy, the Ghana Bar Association is calling for a greater transparency and a greater exercise of discretionary power under Article 296.
If you say there's no clear procedure, exactly what do you mean?
The Edutum case even did what we call judicial filling in the gap by saying that the second level that deals with prima facie when it comes to the removal of the Chief Justice was not made known in the provision, and by that Supreme Court provision, the Edutum case indicated that a prima facie case ought to be established. Is the prima facie case in Article 2? Is it in the Constitution? As far as that particular provision is concerned, no. But by judicial filling in the gap, as Lord Denyon had indicated in other common law cases, that was done in the Dutum case, and it has become part of our body's judicial decisions.
Okay.
So, a clearer call on the position does not mean that the president has acted unconstitutional, but it is a call on a clearer and a certainty in that area of law by way of judicial certainty and clarity.
Okay,
but it is not that the president has erred on point of constitutional proceedings.
Okay, so just your final thoughts on this. Exactly where is the point of departure from what lawyer Christian Mamhesi has clearly elucidated? Specific reason aligning with the GBA's position, and he says this, in his view, the wording of this statement is more of an appeal to the president and not an instruction per se.
Well, I don't see it as an appeal when you are passing a resolution and saying the president should reverse the suspension. I don't see that as an appeal at all. But I haven't read the entire resolution yet because, as I said, tomorrow we are having a press conference, a full press conference on the resolution, and I'm sure we have invited your stations to also come and cover it. So we shall address everything in there. But I am saying that, you see, the GBA is dragging itself into the mud because if just a week earlier, you issue a statement, you didn't see anything wrong with the process, and then you urged all the parties in the process to be fair, to uphold the principles of the Constitution and everything. Then, just a week later, the same organization, the same association shouldn't now come and say that we think that the president is doing something wrong and so he must reverse the suspension and so on. You see, they should have resisted whatever force that was applied on them, so that they would just tell them that no, it wouldn't look good, even in the eye of the public, for us to issue a statement just a week later. Then we are making a complete U-turn. They couldn't do that. They couldn't even do that. And then you are telling me that this association I should protect, I should revere, because I'm a member of it, I should be proud, I shouldn't criticize it, I shouldn't say what exactly the case is. So I'm saying that just a week ago, you issued a statement. Why can't you just hold on to that statement and then maybe you get a larger number of lawyers, or maybe you buy more time because you urged them, you wanted to see how the process will end, and all of us were happy with that statement because you didn't support the president, you didn't support the Chief Justice either, and we all believed that was the right thing to do. And then just a week later, and then we heard what went on. I am telling you that we heard what went on over there. Just two people just stampeded the whole executive. There were arguments, there were debates, and then they pushed them to take a vote. You see, and then the GBA succumbed to that, and when they succumbed to that, you are telling me to be proud of the association. So I'm very, very disappointed in the GBA.
Well, we'll wait for that position of your press conference, but really,
yes.
That in a sense for him, to the extent that the GBA had already stated their position on this, indicating that they were going to watch the process closely and ensure that it indeed follows the dictates of Article 296. And then 2 days later, they issued this resolution. In the words of Council, yes, quickly.
Be mindful that the only opposition we were getting to this whole process was coming from NPP anyway. And so when the GBA came and GBA took the middle line, and then they went for a conference and NPP elements again went there. So nobody can tell us that we shouldn't think that the GBA is partisan. It is partisan, well, clearly partisan. And we shall say so.
So just for the optics, he says from the optics point of view, it doesn't look too good for the image of the GBA.
No, I mean, when we have a lawyer speaking like this, I mean, it's problematic. I mean, an officer of the court scandalizing his own association and saying the GBA has become partisan. I mean, it is problematic. And for me, in the modern society, where these are the things Socrates and Aristotle spoke about, we cannot have such a statement like this. I mean, the very pluralistic.
You have just.
This same association, no. If you depart from it, come out with your objective argumentation. But when you scandalize it and you reduce it into such apropophy, it becomes a problem. Now, the GBA had maintained that due diligence should be followed. Now, and in its further position by the media review, it had maintained this resolution. That is an appeal. I mean, it is a progression. So, I mean, I am not saying that he cannot differ, because we are all human beings and we can differ from
in thought and in position.
Of the majority.
Right on. And Christian Helsemam, appreciate your thoughts on this. Let's see how the coming days will look like. Right on. Thank you so much. He's a private legal practitioner and then also a constitutional lawyer. Eric Delano Lifo is also a private legal practitioner. He is the president of the Lawyers in Search of Democracy, also joining us with his thoughts on this. We're back shortly after this quick break with some more here on Hot Edition. Stay with us.
Greetings in the name of...
I wake up early every weekday because of you to keep
Ghana fails for the 5th consecutive time to attract investment into upstream petroleum industry. We'll bring you details of the latest report by the Public Interest and Accountability Committee, PIAC, shortly. And also we'll tell you about the latest with regards to the Bank of Ghana's efforts to improve on the value of the cedi against the major trading currencies, specifically the dollar. Despite efforts by the Finance Ministry and the Ministry of Energy to attract investment into upstream petroleum industry, there was no petroleum agreement signed in 2024. According to the 2024 Public Interest and Accountability Committee report, this is the 5th consecutive year that no petroleum agreement has been signed since 2018. The following report has more details on this.
The Ghana Extractive Industries Transparency Initiative, Dr. Steve Mantiao believes Ghana's poor seismic data and the country's inability to resolve disputes with international oil companies IOCs amicably have tarnished Ghana's reputation as an attractive business destination for investors.
We need to first work on our seismic data, upgrade them from 2D to 3D. We need to also look at increasing our block sizes. And thirdly, we need to take another look at our fiscal regime, provides better incentives to attract investments, because we know as a result of the energy transition, investments in fossil fuel projects have become very, very scarce. And so the only way you can actually make it attractive is to take another look at the fiscal regime and enhance it a bit for the investors.
He also urged other IOCs operating in Ghana to pay their additional oil entitlement once they hit that threshold. Petrol SA in 2024 paid an additional oil entitlement to Ghana, boosting oil revenue for the year.
Additional oil entitlement is based on a formula that relates to your rate of returns. And so once you hit a certain threshold, it triggers automatically. For the other big companies, I'm unable to tell whether they've reached the threshold. But it's a good sign because the companies I know have been resisting the payment of the additional oil entitlement. So if Petrol SA has paid, it sets the tone for the other companies to pay once the threshold is reached.
That's Dr. Steve Mantiao there, and a report on the PIAC revealing that Ghana has failed the 5th time to attract investment into the upstream petroleum industry. The National Pensions Regulatory Authority, NPRA, has pushed back against calls for pension funds managers to increase their offshore investment as a risk mitigation strategy. The call follows the heavy impact of the domestic debt exchange program on local pension funds, prompting suggestions for a more diversified investment portfolio. Speaking at the 2025 Money Summit organized by the Business and Financial Times, NPRA CEO Christopher Boedi-Mensah argued that Ghana's domestic investment potential remains largely untapped and must be fully explored before looking abroad.
There's a lot of investment opportunity here in Ghana. Yes, the law allows that they can actually do 5% outside of this. But the question is, looking at Ghana, there's a lot of investment opportunity that we have not even exhausted. Why do we want to go outside the country? That is the first question. That notwithstanding, yes, the laws allows it, you can do it, but we as the regulators have to know what you're actually doing so that we can give an approval towards that. Yeah. It's a good argument. I'm not against it at all. But the point is, our market, have we finished exploring our market? No, I don't think we have. Yes, that market that you are going, what's your understanding and experience when it comes to that market? These things, do you have the capacity? Do you have the ability? Do you have the expertise to go into those markets? These are the things that we need to. But in doing so, these farm managers and other people will actually have to build capacity towards other markets. We are not against it as a regulators.
That's Christopher Boedi, Chief Executive Officer of the National Pensions Regulatory Authority, NPRA. Some Ghanaians are raising concern over the latest Bank of Ghana report indicating staff involved in financial sector fraud. According to the Bank of Ghana's April 2025 fraud report, staff involvement in bank fraud continues to rise, revealing that some 365 staff were implicated in 2024, a 33% increase from the numbers in 2023. About 155 staff were dismissed mainly for cash theft. But in an interview, a section of the public highlighted its impact on consumer confidence, urging action to curb the menace.
For the fraud cases increment, I feel it's mostly because we've not yet embraced digitalization to the fullest. I feel Ghana should learn to manage finances using more enhanced digital systems. Looking at the cybersecurity threat landscape evolving with advancement in artificial intelligence, we need people who can, battle this face-to-face using more advanced digitalization systems that can, help in exploring this new threats emerging, like deepfakes, because most of these fraud cases were because of deepfakes. They can create an exact replica of, your CEO and ask you to perform a transaction, and then if you don't know that there are deepfakes possible, mimicking the voice and stuff, it gets much harder. So I feel there should be more like retraining of our resource personnel to update them with these new cyber threats in the landscape.
But the fraud cases is not good at all. It's very, very bad, and they should arrest them.
The government should enforce laws to, penalize those who involve in fraud, and then there should be excess security in the banks in order to prevent fraud.
So some Ghanaians sharing their thoughts on this latest report by the Bank of Ghana, indicating some 365 bank personnel were involved in fraud, various kinds. 155 of them were dismissed, mainly for cash theft. There's more of this on 3news.com. We're back with the sports news. We're Kwampo for standing by after this. Stay with us.
Hello, good evening and welcome to the sports segment on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. My name is Oreku Ampofo. Over the weekend, Ghana Football Association President Keto Kraku was elected as CAF's second vice president. A big step not just for him, but also for Ghanaian representation in African football leadership. As GFA president, Okraku has already played key roles in his CAF executive decisions. His new position gives Ghana a stronger voice at the continental table with influence over competitions, policy making and development. Here's CAF President Patrice Motsepe speaking about Okraku after his achievement.
I am so thankful and so proud of the commitment of President Mahama and his commitment to work together and the work that he's been doing. And I've been watching what has been happening, and I also saw the work that he did as the previous head of state, and that's why I concluded by saying that I'm grateful to him, I'm grateful to the government, and I'm grateful to the people of Ghana and to the people of the continent.
Now to Ghana, where it's time to talk about the biggest domestic fixture here in the country, which is between Hearts of Oak and then Asante Kotoko. While it's still called the Super Clash, recent years haven't quite lived up to expectation. This Sunday, both clubs face off with more to lose than to gain. Hearts have won just one of their last 8 matches, and pressure is mounting on head coach Abubakar Ouattara. Kotoko, on the other hand, and the new coach Karim Zito are trying to revive their title push after a rough stretch. Club legend Opoku believes this clash could be a turning point for either of the two sides.
Has matured in his career as a coach, and he fight for things. He know what he's doing, and he can also read game. And if you give him maximum support, I think he's going to deliver for Kotoko. The shake-up they will do, they need to make sure that they are putting more effort. This week's training, they should concentrate, they should focus, they should sacrifice a lot, whatever it is, sleeping a lot, train very hard, no complacency, and the willingness to die for Hearts match. I think if that comes in, they can win the game. You know, normally at Accra Sports Stadium, Kotoko, you don't find it very difficult to win against us. And it depends, the determination, the preparation that they will put in, and the teamwork. I think they can do it.
And so that was former player of Asante Kotoko Opoku Inti. To some more stories where Vision FC's head coach Nana Ajiman has expressed optimism about the team's future, assuring fans that they will bounce back stronger and deliver a better performance in the Ghana Premier League next season. He made this statement in a post-match interview following Vision FC's 2-0 victory over Ghana Premier League leaders Bibeni Gold Stars at the Ni Eje Kreku II Stadium. The victory over Gold Stars propelled Vision to 13th with just 4 games remaining to conclude the current campaign.
I think this is the second time or the third time I've actually been asked this question. I've said it time and time again. I don't think I've ever thought about Vision going to relegation. I know my boys have rise to the occasion. As in when they were going to rise to the occasion, I wasn't going to change my style. I was going to motivate them and help them to play the way I wanted them to play. Now that they even have a grasp of what I want them to do, as a result, the fans are well over. We're going to stay, and next season, people are going to see the better side of it.
Now away from football, let's do some swimming stories here, because an 8-member Ghanaian team is in Cairo for the 16th African Junior Aquatic Championships. Now the 4-day competition is seen as a building block for Ghana's future in international swimming. Coach Kenneth Ankra is confident of solid performances. 3 Sports spoke with the president of the Ghana Swimming Association, Delphina Kwe, during Sports Daily, and this is what she had to say.
We always talk about medals. This is not the first thing on our mind. Okay. The first thing is to give these kids the exposure to compete against their peers from other continents and other countries. If per chance or by any grace they are able to make medals, then yes, we cannot say we are expecting 2, 4, or 5 medals. Remember, the teams they are meeting are very tough teams. Egypt, South Africa, and a few other very good countries where we have good swimmers here in Africa. For some of my swimmers, this is their first time even going out to compete outside of Accra. So you can imagine.
Well, let's now hear from this team's coach that's for swimming, the swimming national team, Kenneth Ankra. He also shared with 3 Sports that the swim team is well prepared and they are ready for the challenge ahead in Cairo.
Initially, they were a bit tensed up, but after the training this morning, the swimmers are all smiling. They are feeling pretty confident. We practiced a few stats just to get the mind psyched and ready for the competition. And then sometimes all you need to do is just make them believe. And they know what they can do. We always say that water doesn't lie. And then when you put in the training, it will always show when you go for competition. And what we saw this morning, they are feeling pretty confident that they can do something. So I would say that
let's do some more and talk about UEFA Champions League because the road to Munich 2025 starts to shape up, especially tonight, as Arsenal is set to host Paris Saint-Germain in the first leg of the 2024-2025 Champions League semi-finals. Football writer for the Evening Standard, Simon Collins, gives a comprehensive preview of the semi-final matches between Arsenal, Paris Saint-Germain and Barcelona versus Inter Milan.
He's transformed from being a wide player who was quite tricky, could beat a man into a goal-scoring striker. And I think for Arsenal, they had Mbappe in the last round against Real Madrid, who obviously we know is a brilliant player. But I think Dembele in his form right now is one of the best strikers in the world. Very different sides there, don't you? I mean, Barcelona, we know about the attacking threat they've got with Rafinha, Lamine Yamal, Lewandowski, and you compare that to Inter Milan, who've got the best defence in the Champions League this season. No one has conceded fewer goals than them. And I think what you're going to get is a real contrast in styles. I think Inter will be quite happy to let Barcelona have the ball and vice versa. Barcelona will be happy to have it. So it's going to be a real mixture to see who comes out on top. But I think for Inter, they'll be relying on that defence being the best in Europe to be able to keep out what is maybe the best attack in Europe. I think Arsenal will make the final with Barcelona, and I think Barcelona are going to be the champions of Europe.
Let's just quickly go through the lineups of both teams because that match kicks off in just over 40 minutes at the Emirates Stadium between Arsenal and Paris Saint-Germain. In goal for Arsenal is David Raya. It's a back four of Timber, Saliba, Kivio and Miles Lewis-Skelly. In midfield, Thomas Partey is absent after picking up a yellow card in the quarter-final second leg against Real Madrid. And so Merino steps back into midfield to support Rice and Odegaard, and in his place up front, Trossard joins Saka and Martinelli. For Paris Saint-Germain, is more of the same what we've seen throughout the Champions League knockout phases under Luis Enrique, especially this year, as Donnarumma retains his place in goal. Hakimi, Marquinhos, Pacho and Mendes at the back four. In midfield is the Portuguese midfield duo of Vitinha and Neves alongside Ruiz from Spain. Up front is Due Kvaratskhelia and Ousmane Dembele, who's been in red-hot form in 2025. And so that's how both teams shape up. You can get updates of that game on our social media handles at 3SportsGH, and you can get updates of that one as well as reactions from different match centers. Do make sure to follow us. The handle again is at 3SportsGH. My name is Oreku Ampofo, and that's how we wrap up the sports segment here. Hot Edition continues right after this break.
Welcome back. This is Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. We're also on Kesmi 107.1 in Tamale and on W93.5 in Wa and beyond. Now, the government has launched the Ghana Medical Trust Fund, a flagship healthcare initiative aimed at reducing the cost of treating chronic illnesses. Dubbed Mahama Cares, the fund will provide financial support to individuals suffering from chronic health conditions, including kidney and liver diseases, high blood pressure, and cardiac ailments. President John Dramani Mahama urged the private sector to incorporate support for the funding to their corporate social responsibility programs, emphasizing the need for collaborative efforts to address healthcare affordability in the country. We'll take a listen to exactly what the president said earlier today during the launch of this particular program.
Ladies and gentlemen, today we're launching more than just an initiative. We're launching hope. Hope for thousands of Ghanaians living with chronic diseases. Hope for families battling the overwhelming costs of care. Hope for a future where the quality of life is not determined by one's ability to pay for essential treatment necessary. The Ghana Medical Trust Fund will support specialist-level treatment for a range of chronic diseases, including cancers, diabetes, cardiovascular diseases, chronic kidney failure, stroke, and other complications. It will also progressively expand to cover convalescent care, palliative services, and home-based support. Support from the fund will be based on formal applications, carefully vetted, and will focus on costs not currently covered under the NHIS. The fund will operate as an independent statutory trust, governed by a board of trustees and supported by a dedicated administrative secretariat, third-party administrators, and patient navigators to ensure transparency, efficiency, and a patient-centered service ethic. Initial projections suggest the fund will require approximately 3 billion Ghana cedis annually over the first 3 years. And as was said, the main source of finance is going to come from the NHIL, the uncapped portion of the NHIL. It will also include direct budgetary support from government, voluntary contributions from corporate institutions and individuals, grants, donations, and will also be able to invest in order to raise income, investment income.
As President John Dramani Mahama there. Now, the key findings by the Africa Center for Entrepreneurship and Youth Empowerment shows that 9 state institutions failed to achieve the pass mark of ensuring transparency and financial management. The center is recommending mandatory asset declaration for public officials. There's more in the following report. We've got details of that for you shortly on 3news.com. The Achimota Circuit Court has deferred judgment against 2 Nigerian convicts who conspired and also engaged in human trafficking. The presiding judge, Akosia Anochiwa Ejapong, ordered pregnancy tests to be conducted for Jessica Daniel, one of the victims, after which the court will deliver a sentence. The duo were found guilty of conspiracy to commit crime, human trafficking, and human trade. There's more in the following report.
According to the facts of the case, Jessica Daniel and Kelvin Johnson lured 2 young women aged 20 and 25 years from Nigeria with a pretext of getting them domestic household work in Ghana. The victims told investigators that by February 2024, an agent had connived with Kelvin, who met them at a lorry station in Ghana. He then allegedly took them to an apartment and informed them that they were there to work as prostitutes. Prosecutors further alleged that the accused persons admitted recruiting the victims and told them they would gain their freedom if they paid 8,000 Ghana cedis. Presiding Judge Anochiwa Ejapong found both accused persons guilty of the charges of conspiracy and human trafficking after noting that the accused persons facilitated the exploitation of the victims. She, however, deferred her sentencing and remanded them again into police custody in order for a pregnancy test to be done on Jessica Daniel. The case has been adjourned to Wednesday, April 30. Speaking before they were whisked away, Kelvin Johnson maintained he was innocent of the charges.
I'm innocent, and God knows it, and I clear conscience of this. We are the victims. It's not only in National.
It's more of this on 3news.com. Make some time and visit 3news.com. That's it for Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7. Also on Kesmi 107.1 in Tamale and on W 93.5 in Beyond. On behalf of the rest of the team, we do appreciate your company. Join me